It was a routine traffic stop, or at least that's what they thought. A black girl, driving alone, minding her business, when out of nowhere, a pair of police officers pull her over. What seems like just another case of racial profiling quickly spirals into something far more dangerous. They demand her license, her ID, and ask questions that make no sense, only to realize something shocking. This is no ordinary girl. She's not just another young woman on the road. She's an undercover FBI agent, and her mission is far bigger than they can imagine. As the officers begin to panic, things quickly escalate. Their confidence starts to slip. They're faced with an agent trained to handle situations like these, and now they've made the dangerous mistake of targeting the wrong person. But just when it seems like the situation might de-escalate, new information surfaces. The power dynamic shifts. Secrets are revealed, and the question remains, will they be able to cover up their mistake, or is this the beginning of the end for them? Stay tuned to see what happens next as this shocking encounter unfolds and the tension rises. What will be the fallout of this high-stakes confrontation? You won't want to miss what happens next. As the silence between the officers and the young woman lingers, the tension is palpable. The two cops exchange uneasy glances, the weight of the situation slowly sinking in. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The girl, no older than 20, had been doing what most people do, driving down an empty highway, trying to get home. But now she wasn't just a random target. She was part of something much larger. The officers, who had already assumed they were in control, start to grow nervous. They'd seen plenty of stops turn chaotic, but this wasn't the usual confrontation. The girl's calm demeanor was unsettling. She didn't seem afraid or angry, just controlled. The kind of control that only comes from someone who knows exactly what they're doing. But why had she been stopped in the first place? Was it a mistake, or something more sinister? As they fumble through her paperwork, trying to find a reason to justify the stop, their radios crackle. A voice on the other end hears an order, but it only adds more confusion. "Get her out of there," the voice says, urgency in their tone. The girl, sensing something is off, slowly reaches for her phone, her fingers hovering over the screen. What was she about to do? And why was the voice so frantic? Everything begins to unravel, but no one knows yet who will be left standing when it's over. The radio crackles again, louder this time, as the voice on the other end grows more frantic. "You need to act fast. They're onto you." The officers freeze, their eyes darting to the girl, who is still sitting calmly in the car. She hasn't moved, but her fingers twitch near her phone. Her eyes never leave them, her expression unreadable. The calmness only makes the officers more uneasy. They didn't know who they were dealing with, but they could feel something wasn't right. Officer Martinez, the more seasoned of the two, steps forward, his voice shaky. "What's your name?" he demands, trying to regain some control of the situation. But the girl doesn't flinch. She simply looks at him, as if sizing him up, before responding quietly, "It's not important." Her voice is steady, but there's an edge to it that sends a chill through him. He knows she's not telling him everything, but how much does she know? And what was her connection to the FBI? Behind them, the other officer, Peterson, keeps his hand on his holster, ready for whatever might happen next. They were trained to handle confrontations, but this wasn't something they were prepared for. The girl was too calm, too composed. And now the radio chatter was escalating, hints of urgency seeping through. She couldn't just be a random target. There was something bigger happening here, and the officers had unknowingly walked right into it. The girl's phone buzzes, and she glances down, her face briefly shadowed by what looks like a mixture of frustration and determination. She's clearly weighing her options, but what was she planning? Martinez notices the shift in her expression. It's subtle, but enough to make him wonder. Was she making a decision to fight back? Or had she already planned this from the start? Just as Peterson steps closer, the distant sound of sirens cuts through the tension. The two officers exchange a look, their confusion mounting. Were they the ones being targeted now? And if so, who was pulling the strings? They can feel the heat closing in around them, but they don't know who's the real threat anymore. The girl's phone buzzes again. She lifts it to her ear, speaking softly into it, her words barely audible. "I'm on my way. It's time." Her tone is deliberate, almost too calm for someone in her position. But what did it mean? What had she just set into motion? And more importantly, who was on the other end of that call? Martinez swallows hard, realizing the gravity of the situation. He had no idea who he was dealing with. But as the sirens grow louder, it becomes clear that this wasn't just a routine stop. It was the beginning of something much bigger, something neither of them was prepared for. The sirens are closer now, almost deafening. Martinez feels his heart race as the flashing red and blue lights grow in the rearview mirror. It's like a ticking time bomb, and he knows there's no turning back. Every instinct tells him something is wrong, but he can't put his finger on it. Peterson looks just as confused, his eyes flicking between the girl and the approaching vehicles. They both knew their department well enough to know that backup didn't come this fast unless something big was happening. But what was it? The girl, still sitting in her car, seems unaffected by the chaos building around them. She hasn't moved, hasn't reacted to the sirens. Martinez can feel his grip tightening around his radio, but it's clear now that he doesn't have control of the situation. The air is thick with uncertainty. Every second that passes makes it harder to breathe. She slowly raises her head and looks directly at him. It's a calm, almost chilling gaze, as if she's looking through him. "You should let me go," she says quietly, but with an edge that cuts through the tension like a knife. Martinez opens his mouth to respond, but no words come out. His mind races, trying to figure out his next move. He wants to challenge her, to assert control. But something about her calm confidence makes him hesitate. Behind them, the sirens stop abruptly, and the sound of several doors slamming shut fills the air. More officers are on the ground now. But they aren't just officers. The black SUVs pull up next to the patrol cars, and the men who step out are not dressed in the usual uniforms. These aren't local police. These are government agents, well-trained, well-armed. The girl's calm expression never falters as one of them walks up to the window of her car, his face unreadable. Martinez feels a cold sweat break out across his forehead. His breath catches in his throat. What is happening? His mind flashes through everything he's seen in the past few minutes. The radio chatter, the strange calmness of the girl, the sudden arrival of these new figures. It's all piecing together in a way that doesn't make sense, and yet it does. But the more he tries to make sense of it, the more confusing it becomes. Peterson takes a step back, his eyes wide. "What the hell is going on here?" he mutters, almost to himself. The agent at the window leans down, his voice low but firm. "Move aside." The command is simple, but the weight behind it is undeniable. Martinez feels the pressure to comply, but he can't shake the feeling that he's being dragged into something much bigger than he ever expected. The girl doesn't flinch. She looks at the agent, her face unreadable. There's something in her eyes, a flicker of recognition, maybe even a hint of relief. Whatever is about to happen, she's ready for it. Martinez feels a knot tighten in his stomach. Whatever was coming next, he knew it was too late to back out now. The agent's hand hovers near his weapon, and everything seems to stop for a second. The girl finally opens her mouth again, her voice steady and controlled. It's time. But what happens next? The question lingers in the air, unanswered, as the tension builds to its breaking point. The standoff is reaching its climax, and nothing is certain anymore. The officers are trapped in a web they don't understand, and the girl holds the key to everything. What happens when she finally decides to unlock it? The air hangs heavy with anticipation, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone involved. Just as the agent reaches for his weapon, the girl's phone buzzes once again. This time, the sound seems to reverberate through the tense silence, as if it carries more than just a notification. It carries a warning. She glances at the screen quickly, her eyes narrowing, then she does something unexpected. She raises her hands, not in surrender, but in a deliberate gesture of control. Slowly, deliberately, she pushes open the car door, her eyes never leaving the agent. The officers and the newly arrived government agents freeze, uncertainty flashing across their faces. What is she doing? Is this some sort of move, a psychological tactic? Before anyone can react, a sudden explosion of movement cuts through the tension. A group of men, dressed in tactical gear, emerges from the black SUVs, weapons drawn, but their presence doesn't seem to bother the girl. Instead, she steps forward, and with a calmness that's almost eerie, she speaks again, this time louder, addressing everyone around her. "You're not the ones who should be worried," she says, her voice steady, but this time there's a sharp edge to it. She's not just addressing the officers, she's addressing everyone. Martinez feels a cold shiver crawl down his spine. What does she mean by that? Who else was involved? The ground beneath their feet seems to shift, as if everything they thought they knew about the situation is suddenly in question. The agents, still holding their positions, exchange a glance, their hands tightening on their weapons. It's clear they don't know what to do next. It's as if the game has changed entirely. Martinez's head spins, trying to catch up with the rapid escalation. What had seemed like an isolated incident, just a police stop gone wrong, was now spiraling into something far darker. Then the unexpected happens. A vehicle screeches to a halt nearby, kicking up dust in the already chaotic scene. Another man steps out, this one wearing a suit, his expression unreadable. His gaze shifts from the girl to the officers, and for the first time, the girl's calm demeanor cracks. A flicker of recognition flashes in her eyes. Martinez watches her, confused. Was this man another ally? A new player in the game? The suit-wearing man takes slow, measured steps toward the girl, ignoring the government agents and the officers alike. It's like he doesn't even notice them. He stops just a few feet away from her, his eyes locking onto hers. The tension in the air thickens as the two stand facing each other, neither one backing down. "You know the rules," he says softly, his voice low but cutting. "You shouldn't have come back." The girl's expression shifts, but she doesn't respond immediately. She only looks at him, almost as if weighing her next move. Martinez feels his pulse quicken. Who were these people? What rules was the man referring to? And why did the girl look so familiar with him? Without warning, the man pulls out an envelope from inside his jacket and hands it to her. The moment their hands meet, there's a strange, electric tension that passes between them, like the handoff of something incredibly important, something life-changing. But before Martinez can process what he's seen, the suit-wearing man turns on his heel, walking away without a single word. The girl stands there for a moment, holding the envelope, her face unreadable. The officers and agents, still reeling from the unexpected developments, don't know whether to move or stay still. Then, with a suddenness that takes everyone by surprise, she opens the envelope. A sharp intake of breath escapes her lips as she reads whatever's inside, and for a brief moment, Martinez swears he sees a flicker of fear in her eyes. It's a second before she looks up, her eyes locking onto his. "You should have stayed out of it," she says quietly, but the warning in her voice is clear. Everything goes still, no one speaks, and in that instant, the entire situation shifts. The stakes are higher than anyone realized. But just what is the girl caught in? And what happens when the truth finally comes to light? The tension in the air is unbearable, each heartbeat like a drum, echoing the uncertainty of what will come next. The girl holds the envelope, her eyes flicking over the contents one last time before she carefully folds the paper and slips it back inside. The group of agents, who have been watching her every move, exchange uncertain glances. Martinez feels a chill creep up his spine, his instincts screaming that they're at the center of something far bigger than they could ever have imagined. For a moment, the entire world seems to stop. The girl steps back, finally breaking the silence, her voice calm but firm. "You think this is over, don't you?" she says, addressing the men in suits, the officers, and everyone present. "You're all just pawns in a much larger game, but it's too late for you to understand." Her words hang in the air like a sharp warning. Martinez feels a sense of dread building in his gut. What had they all just walked into? What game was she talking about? Then, as if on cue, the air around them shifts. The ground beneath their feet seems to tremble ever so slightly. It's almost imperceptible, but it's enough to make everyone pause. From somewhere in the distance, the faint sound of helicopters grows louder, circling overhead. The scene that once seemed chaotic suddenly takes on a darker tone, as if everything is converging toward an inescapable conclusion.